You planted an apple tree 3 years ago. $50. Perfect sunny spot. Weekly watering. Careful fertilizing. And today? Still nothing. Zero fruit. Just a 20-foot ornamental stick hogging 400 square feet of your best garden space, while your property taxes keep climbing and grocery prices hit record highs every month. Meanwhile, your neighbor just walked over with a massive bowl. Figs, berries, hazelnuts, all from compact bushes she planted 18 months ago. Most barely reach her waist. She spent less on all 9 plants combined than you dropped on that single apple tree. And she's been harvesting nonstop since May. This isn't luck. This isn't some gardening secret. This is what happens when you stop gambling on fruit trees and start planting proven high-yield shrubs that actually deliver. Today I'm walking you through 9 specific varieties that outproduce standard fruit trees by massive margins, start bearing in 1 to 3 years instead of 5 to 10, and keep producing for decades with almost zero maintenance. Some of these you've never heard of. A couple will completely change how you think about backyard food production. And the last one survives being frozen to the ground every single winter and still cranks out up to 100 pounds of high-calorie fruit per season. If you want food security, not ornamental promises, stay locked in. Let's go. Plant number 1, gummy berry. And I'm starting here because this might be the single most underrated food plant in North America. The gummy berry, Elaeagnus multiflora, is a 5 to 8 foot deciduous shrub from East Asia. Hardy zones 4 through 9. Partially self-fertile but explodes with a pollination partner. Starts fruiting year 2 or 3. Mature bushes produce 10 to 15 pounds of bright red, cherry-sized berries every season. Tart sweet flavor like cherries with a unique tangy finish. Loaded with lycopene, vitamins A, C, E, and essential fatty acids. But here's what separates gummy from every other berry bush. It fixes nitrogen, just like legumes. The roots partner with soil bacteria called frankia that pull atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into plant-available fertilizer right in your soil. So while you're harvesting pounds of antioxidant-packed fruit, this bush is simultaneously feeding every plant around it. Research shows growing gummy near fruit trees can boost their yields by 10% or more. You're planting a fruit producer and a fertilizer factory in one shot. Gummy tolerates poor soil, drought, air pollution, and has zero pest problems in most climates. If you're building a food forest or any kind of permaculture system, this is your anchor plant. It improves soil health while cranking out food. That's a combination almost nothing else delivers. Plant number 2, honeyberry, also called haskap. And this one holds a title no other fruiting plant on earth can claim. It produces the earliest harvest of the entire growing season. Earlier than strawberries. Earlier than anything. While every other plant in your garden is barely waking up from winter, honeyberries are already ripening fruit. In most climates, you're picking honeyberries 2 to 3 weeks before your first strawberry even thinks about turning red. But the real superpower is cold hardiness. These bushes survive negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Open flowers tolerate 14 degrees without damage. There is essentially no winter too brutal for honeyberries. If you garden in zones 2 through 7 and you've been told your climate is too harsh for fruit production, honeyberries just proved everyone wrong. Mature plants yield 5 to 15 pounds per bush, depending on variety. They start producing by year 2 or 3 and remain productive for 30 years or more. The berries are elongated, dark blue, and taste like a complex blend of blueberry, grape, and raspberry. Incredible fresh, frozen, or in preserves. Critical detail: honeyberries absolutely require cross-pollination from a compatible variety. One bush alone produces almost nothing. You need at least 2 varieties that bloom simultaneously. Borealis and tundra work beautifully together. Aurora and honeybee are another solid pair. Get pollination right, and you'll be shocked at the production from these compact plants. For cold climate gardeners and anyone wanting to extend harvest season on both ends, honeyberries are non-negotiable. Plant number 3, Nanking cherry. If you want something that looks stunning in your landscape while simultaneously burying you in fruit, this is it. Nanking cherry was introduced to the United States in 1882 and was hugely popular for decades before falling out of favor in the 1940s when commercial agriculture shifted to crops with longer shelf life. But for home gardeners and self-sufficient homesteaders, this bush is an absolute gem that deserves a massive comeback. Early spring, Before leaves even emerge, Nanking cherry explodes with dense clusters of white and pink blossoms. We're talking full cotton candy-level bloom coverage. It's one of the most beautiful flowering shrubs you can plant. Then those flowers become cherries. Small, bright red, tart-sweet cherries ripening in June and July. Yield numbers are impressive. A mature Nanking cherry produces 15 to 50 pounds of fruit, depending on size and growing conditions. Utah State University Extension reports consistent yields of 15 to 50 pounds per plant with reliable, profuse fruit set. And these start producing in just 2 to 3 years after planting. The fruit is smaller than standard cherries, about a half-inch diameter, but the flavor is fantastic for pies, jams, jellies, syrups, and wine. Bushes grow 6 to 10 feet tall, hardy in zones 2 through 7. They handle extreme cold, extreme heat, drought, and almost any soil type. These are adapted to conditions from Mongolia to the American Midwest. Important note, Nanking cherries need cross-pollination. Plant at least 2 bushes. Space them 6 to 10 feet apart, and you've got a gorgeous edible hedge producing buckets of cherries every single year. These plants live up to 50 years with proper care. That's half a century of free fruit from something that also makes your property look incredible. Plant number 4, Saskatoon berry, also called serviceberry. This is a native North American powerhouse that most American gardeners are completely ignoring, while Canadians have been growing it commercially for decades. If you've ever hiked in Montana, Saskatchewan, or Maine and grabbed handfuls of dark purple berries off a wild bush, you might have already tasted Saskatoons without knowing it. But cultivated varieties are on a completely different level. Bigger, sweeter, juicier, and dramatically more productive. A mature Saskatoon bush produces 10 to 30 pounds of fruit per plant. Montana State University trials found top varieties like Northline and Thiessen averaged over 11 pounds per plant. They start bearing in 2 to 4 years and hit full production around year 8. Once established, they keep producing for 20 years or more. The flavor sets Saskatoons apart. People describe it as a cross between blueberry and almond with this subtle nutty sweetness unlike anything else. That's because the tiny seeds contain a compound similar to what gives almonds their flavor. They're perfect fresh, in pies and muffins, dried like raisins, or simmered into jams and syrups. Here's the kicker for cold climate gardeners. Saskatoons are hardy down to -50 to -60 degrees Fahrenheit. They laugh at winter. They also tolerate a much wider soil pH range than blueberries. So if your soil is too alkaline for blueberries, Saskatoons are your answer. Self-fertile, low-maintenance, native, and incredibly productive. Grow them as a hedge, specimen shrub, or even train them as small trees. They have stunning white spring flowers and brilliant orange fall foliage. Your neighbors will think you planted expensive ornamentals. They don't need to know you're harvesting 30 pounds of free fruit every summer. Plant number 5, Jostaberry, pronounced yustaberry. This is the plant scientists literally engineered to be the perfect berry bush. A jostaberry is a hybrid cross between black currant and gooseberry, developed in Germany. The goal was simple. Take the huge yields and rich flavor of black currants, combine them with the size and versatility of gooseberries, and eliminate the thorns and disease problems of both. And they absolutely nailed it. Jostaberries produce large, jet-black berries about the size of small grapes, with a sweet tart flavor richer than either parent. A mature bush yields 10 to 20 pounds per season. They're self-fertile, so you only need one plant, though planting a few together improves yields. They start bearing in 1 to 2 years after planting and reach full production in about 5 years. But here's what makes jostaberries a game-changer for anyone who's struggled with other berry bushes. They're completely thornless. If you've ever bled your way through a gooseberry harvest, you understand what a massive deal that is. They're also highly resistant to diseases that plague their parent species, including powdery mildew, leaf spot, and white pine blister rust. Bushes grow 3 to 6 feet tall, are hardy down to -40 degrees, and thrive in full sun to partial shade. The berries are loaded with vitamin C and make incredible jams, jellies, pies, and wine. They also freeze beautifully. If you love the idea of growing currants or gooseberries but you've been put off by thorns, diseases, or fussy growing requirements, jostaberries give you all the benefits with none of the headaches. It's the best traits of 2 great plants combined into one bulletproof bush. Plant number 6, Rosa rugosa. The rugosa rose. And this one is going to surprise most people because almost nobody thinks of it as a food plant. When most people hear rose, they think ornamental, something pretty to look at. But Rosa rugosa is one of the most nutritionally powerful food plants you can grow in your yard. And almost nobody is taking advantage of it. The secret is in the hips. After petals fall in late summer and early fall, Rosa rugosa produces massive rose hips, some 4 to 5 times larger than other rose species. And those hips are one of the richest natural sources of vitamin C on the planet. We're talking 20 to 40 times more vitamin C per weight than oranges. Some research on Rosa rugosa specifically found it had the highest vitamin C content of all rose species tested. But it's not just vitamin C. Rose hips contain beta-carotene, lycopene, flavonoids, essential fatty acids, and powerful anti-inflammatory compounds. During World War II, Britain organized massive rose hip harvesting campaigns to make vitamin C syrup because citrus imports were cut off. This is literally a survival food with centuries of documented medicinal use. Rosa rugosa grows as a dense, thorny shrub 4 to 6 feet tall. It's incredibly tough, tolerating salt spray, sandy soil, wind, cold down to zone 2, and complete neglect. It spreads by suckers and can form a dense, impenetrable hedge that doubles as a security barrier. Try breaking into a yard surrounded by rugosa roses. It's not happening. The beautiful pink or white flowers are fragrant and edible. Petals can be used in teas, salads, and rose water. Then the hips come in fall. Harvest them after the first frost when they're bright red and slightly soft. Dry them for tea, simmer them into syrup, process them into jam, or grind them into powder as a daily vitamin C supplement. A food-producing hedge that's gorgeous, smells amazing, provides vitamin C all winter long, and keeps intruders out of your yard. That's the definition of a multifunction permaculture plant. Plant number 7, goji berry. If you've been buying these at health food stores for $15 a bag, you're going to love this. Goji berries are one of the most expensive superfoods you can buy. Dried goji berries retail for $15 to $30 per pound at most stores, and the entire supplement and superfood industry has made billions marketing them as exotic, hard-to-get health food. But here's what they don't want you to know. Goji berries grow on a bush that thrives in your backyard, even in poor soil, even with almost no care. The goji berry bush, Lycium barbarum, is a deciduous woody shrub growing 5 to 8 feet tall, hardy in zones 3 through 10, which covers almost the entire continental United States. It tolerates drought, poor soil, alkaline conditions, and partial shade. A mature plant produces 2 to 6 pounds of berries per season starting in its second or third year. Now 2 to 6 pounds might sound modest compared to other bushes on this list, but consider the value. At even $10 a pound for dried goji berries, those 6 pounds represent $60 worth of harvest. And fresh goji berries, which you basically cannot buy in stores, are far superior in flavor and nutrition to dried ones. Goji berries are packed with antioxidants, amino acids, vitamins A and C, iron, and zinc. Traditional Chinese medicine has used them for thousands of years. Fresh berries taste like a mild, slightly sweet tomato with berry notes. Eat them fresh, dry them, add them to smoothies, trail mixes, oatmeal, or brew them as tea. Pro tip: goji bushes produce fruit on new growth, so they benefit from annual pruning. They also send out runners and can spread, so give them space or use a root barrier. The leaves are edible too, making nutritious tea and greens, so you get food from both berries and foliage. For anyone building a survival garden or trying to grow the most nutrient-dense food possible per square foot, goji is essential. Plant number 8, hazelnut in bush form. And this one is fundamentally different from everything else on this list because it doesn't produce fruit. It produces fat and protein. If you're serious about food self-sufficiency, you need to think beyond berries and fruit. You need calorie-dense, shelf-stable, nutrient-rich food that stores for months without refrigeration. And in the entire world of backyard food production, almost nothing fits that description better than hazelnuts. Hazelnuts are 18% protein and 60% healthy monounsaturated fat. They're loaded with vitamin E, magnesium, iron, calcium, potassium, and B vitamins. They store for months in the shell at room temperature. You don't need to can them, freeze them, or dehydrate them. Just dry them and put them in a cool, dark place. That's it. Shelf-stable, calorie-dense food from your backyard. When grown in bush form, hazelnuts stay compact and manageable, typically 6 to 12 feet tall. Modern hybrid varieties bred for the eastern United States combine the large, flavorful nuts of European hazelnuts with the cold hardiness and disease resistance of American hazelnuts. Research from the University of Minnesota shows hybrid varieties producing 4 to 12 pounds of nuts per bush with an average around 7 pounds. They start bearing in 3 to 5 years, and mature bushes can produce up to 20 pounds. An orchard can remain productive for 40 to 50 years. 4 or 5 hazelnut bushes along a property line maintained as a hedge could produce 40 to 100 pounds of high-protein, high-fat nuts every single year for decades. Hazelnuts do need cross-pollination, so plant at least 2 different varieties. Look for blight-resistant hybrids like Jefferson, Yamhill, or newer Cornell and OSU releases. They're wind-pollinated, so pollen travels easily between nearby plants. Hardy in zones 4 through 9 with proper variety selection. In a true preparedness or self-sufficiency garden, hazelnuts fill the gap no fruit or berry can. They give you the calorie density and macronutrients of a major food crop from a bush you plant once and harvest for a lifetime. This is the ultimate long-term food security plant. Plant number 9, Chicago Hardy Figure, the grand finale. And honestly, this one might blow your mind because most people think figs can only grow in warm Mediterranean climates. They're wrong. The Chicago Hardy fig was discovered growing in a Chicago backyard in the 1970s, surviving brutal Midwest winters that would kill any normal fig tree. The roots of Chicago Hardy are hardy down to -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Above-ground stems are hardy to about 10 degrees. And even if the stems freeze completely to the ground, this plant regrows from the roots every single spring and still produces fruit that same season because it fruits on new wood. Let me say that again. The plant can literally freeze to the ground, come back from its roots in spring, and give you a full harvest of ripe figs by late summer. In zones 6 through 10, it grows as a full multi-trunk bush or small tree 10 to 15 feet tall. In zones 5 and even parts of zone 4 with protection, it can be grown as a dieback shrub that renews itself every year. And the production is remarkable. One Green World nursery lists yield at 30 to 50 pounds per plant. Some growers in favorable climates report up to 100 pounds of figs in a single season. The fruit is medium-sized with purplish-brown skin and sweet, strawberry-pink flesh inside. Perfect for eating fresh, drying, making preserves, or adding to charcuterie boards. Figs are high-calorie, nutrient-dense fruit with significant amounts of potassium, calcium, magnesium, and fiber. A single fig contains about 47 calories. Compare that to most berries at maybe 5 to 10 calories per berry. If you're thinking about actual food production and caloric self-sufficiency, figs are in a completely different league. Chicago Hardy is self-pollinating. You only need one plant. It has very few pest or disease problems. Deer generally leave it alone. It's drought-tolerant once established, and it fruits within 1 to 2 years of planting. When Italian immigrants first came to the northeastern United States in the early 1900s, they brought fig trees and developed ingenious methods to overwinter them in cold climates. Some would literally dig up half the root ball, lay the tree on its side, and bury it under leaves for winter. With Chicago Hardy, you don't need to do any of that. Plant it, mulch it, and let it do its thing. Even if it dies back, it comes back every time. So let's step back and look at the big picture. Because when you combine all 9 of these bushes strategically, you don't just have a garden. You have a self-sustaining food production system that works from early spring through late fall with almost no inputs required. Here's what your harvest calendar looks like. Honeyberries ripen first in late spring, weeks before anything else. Gummy berries and Nanking cherries come next in June. Saskatoons and Josta berries follow in July. Goji berries produce from midsummer through fall. Rosa rugosa hips are ready after first frost. Chicago Hardy figs ripen in late summer and keep going into fall. And hazelnuts drop in September and October, giving you shelf-stable protein and fat all winter. That's 7 to 8 months of continuous fresh food production from 9 bushes that collectively take up less space than 2 standard fruit trees. And the gummy is improving the soil for all of them while producing its own harvest. That's not just gardening. That's food forest design. That's permaculture in action. Now, before I let you go, 5 bonus strategies that will take your bush garden from good to incredible. Bonus number 1. The Food Forest Guild approach. Plant your tallest producers like Chicago hardy fig and hazelnuts as the canopy layer. Use medium bushes like Saskatoon, Nanking cherry, and gummy as the understory. Add compact ground-level producers like goji and Rosa rugosa around the edges. This vertical stacking mimics natural forest structure and dramatically increases production per square foot. Bonus number 2. Succession planting for maximum harvest window. Within each species, choose early, mid, and late-season varieties. For honeyberries, pair an early variety like Borealis with a late variety like Tundra to extend your harvest by weeks. Same strategy works with Saskatoons and figs. Bonus number 3. The value-added multiplier. Don't just eat fresh. Transform your harvest into high-value products. Rose hip vitamin C powder sells for $25 to $40 per pound. Hazelnut butter rivals high-end almond butter in price. Fig preserves, goji berry trail mix, Nanking cherry wine, elderberry-style gummy syrup. Your kitchen becomes your profit center. One homesteader in Oregon runs her entire cottage food business off bushes like these. Bonus number 4. Feed the soil, not the plants. Every bush on this list performs dramatically better in living soil rich with organic matter. Thick mulch, compost, and wood chips around the base of each bush reduce watering, eliminate weeding, and build soil fertility over time. The gummy is already fixing nitrogen for the whole system. Add mulch, and you've created a self-improving growing environment that gets more productive every single year. Bonus number 5. Preserve for year-round food security. Every fruit and nut on this list can be preserved for off-season use. Freeze berries, dry figs and goji berries. Cure hazelnuts. Make rose hip powder for winter tea. Jar up jams and syrups. A well-planned bush garden doesn't just feed you in summer. It feeds you all 12 months if you preserve smartly. That's true food independence from a tiny footprint. All right, here's your homework. Pick 3 bushes from this list. Just 3. The 3 that make the most sense for your hardiness zone, your space, and what your family will actually eat and use. Find the specific varieties that match your climate. Order them this week. You don't need a homestead. You don't need acres. You need maybe 50 to 100 square feet and 3 well-chosen bushes. Within 2 years, you'll be producing more food from that space than a fruit tree gives you in its first decade. Drop a comment below and tell me which 3 you're starting with. If you're already growing some of these, share your results and help the rest of the community. I read every single comment. If this video helped you, smash that like button. Share it with someone who keeps staring at their fruitless apple tree wondering what went wrong. And make sure you're subscribed because I've got a lot more content like this coming. We're building the most productive, most self-sufficient gardens possible, and I want you to be part of it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.